1,528 decibels of dynamic range. And when you consider the loudest sound recorded is like 210 decibels, this thing has some serious dynamic range. Hey guys, it's Randy and welcome back to another video. And today I'm gonna cover everything that you need to know about the Sound Devices MixPre-6 2nd edition. Before we get into that, let's talk about 32-bit float recording because I'm sure that's why the majority of you guys are interested in this device. So 32-bit float, of course, as I mentioned at the beginning, is massive dynamic range. So it's Hey.
Why don't people in Athens like the morning?
I don't know.
Because dawn is Teflon grease.
Good one. So what exactly is 32-bit float? Well, it's essentially recording a massive amount of dynamic range, like 1,528 decibels of dynamic range. You can actually record someone speaking and then a volcano erupting without changing your gain at all, which is pretty crazy. It still means you have to set up your mics properly to get good signal to noise ratio, but in terms of clipping, you basically don't have to worry about it ever. And holy crap, we just passed 1,000 subscribers. You guys are absolutely nuts. Thank you so much. Let's go ahead and take a look at this thing. Up here, we've got our Sound Devices icon. That's basically our power indicator. To the right of that, we've got this star button, which is a programmable button. I have it set up so it does my SD card. It just jumps to that spot in the menu. That way I can format my cards quickly. You can also use it to slate and do some other things. Beside that, play, stop, record. Pretty self-explanatory. Below that, we've got our 4-channel controls. These are linked to XLR and 1/4-inch inputs 1 through 4 on either side. And if you press them in, you get some additional features. So it'll bring up the actual menu itself. You can arm, disarm, low cut, change the input, all that sort of stuff. You'll see some of this is grayed out. It's because I'm currently recording with this. And you can see it also glows green while I'm speaking. If I push it a little harder, check, check, check. Hey, 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 hey. You can see that I make it actually go yellow. And I believe it goes red if it clips too. I think the limiters were kicking on there. And then as you can see, we've got our screen over here. One tap will get you to view all the channels and then back to just monitoring left and right. And for size comparison, here's one of these little guys that we all have. Every audio guy in the world has one of these. Great for daytime. I've never had an issue with it. These rings are actually kind of a lifesaver, just being able to quickly glance over and see if you're clipping or something like that. So I mount this right below my camera when I'm recording YouTube videos. And it's great because if I ever see yellow, I know I've clipped. So pretty nice to have that sort of indicator always there. All right, so on the left side here, we've got our 2 Neutrik combo jacks. Beside that, we've got our USB-A port. You can connect third-party accessories like another keyboard if you want to type in metadata quickly or anything like that. And it also allows you to attach a USB Type-A backup device. So you can throw a thumb drive on there and record a backup. One thing that's important to note is that it does require that you stop recording before it backs up to that device. So in the event that you lose power or something like that, it's not going to work for you as a backup, but just nice to know you do have some additional storage there that you can use. And as you can see here, we've got our USB Type-C port. This is how I'm powering the device currently. There are a few different power options on the back, and I'll get to those in just a sec. You can also use external power banks that are USB Type-A to C, or you can use the included USB-C to C cable. And you're gonna use the USB-C if you're plugging into a computer as well. And down here, we've got our unbalanced stereo out. This is great for sending a mix to your camera or to another recorder, and it's set up to default to output what comes out of your left-right mix, but you can actually configure this to come out any ISO tracks or anything like that. So it's pretty handy. You can build your own mix essentially for a camera. And then top right corner here, we've got our power switch. It's pretty awesome that it's hard to hit. So it's buried in there. You kind of have to dig for it. And if you turn off power, I'm actually going to do that while I'm recording right now. So I just flipped off the power and you can see that you can still hear me. I should say you can hear that you can still hear me. So it does actually maintain the power if you're in record, which is pretty sweet. On the back side here, we've got our plastic Sound Devices branded battery sled. This is included with the device and this holds 4 AA's. You can, of course, get Hiroshi power options. You can get V-mount sleds that slide onto here. So there are all types of different power options if you want them. I pretty much always plug in through the wall, so I never really use this thing. It just kind of covers up the back. And then in the side here, we've got a little Allen wrench. This is actually just to push through the device. There's a hole where this tripod goes in right beside it, and it's going to push our 1/4-20 thread out through the top so you can mount a camera flush on the top of this device. Then inside here, we have our SD card, which I can't really take out right now because I'm currently recording to it. Anti-rotational pin that just kind of sits in here against this magnet. All right, and last but certainly not least, we've got channels 3 and 4 with our Neutrik combo jack inputs. We have our aux or mic in. This is a nice stereo return. It's unbalanced, 3.5 millimeter. What's awesome about this is that you can actually route this to channels 5 and 6. So you do get 6 true channels of recording versus the MixPre-3, where this actually overwrites channels 2 and 3 on the device. On the MixPre-3, you're kind of maxed out at 3 channels. This one, you actually do get a true 6 channels, which is pretty sweet. Down below that, we've got our camera timecode in micro HDMI. What's fantastic about this is not only can you sync this device to your camera, but you can actually send recording flags from your camera. So when you press record on the camera, this device will start recording as well. Then we've got our output for headphones over here. This is a 3.5 millimeter headphone jack. This headphone amp actually sounds fantastic. I find it to be much less harsh than the Zoom F6 series. After a long day of shooting, you want something that sounds nice and sweet. And I gotta say, the headphone amplifiers on this are awesome. This will default to control your headphone volume at all times, unless you're in a menu that has like a range, like if you're controlling gain or something like that, this will jump to a gain control. But generally speaking, it's pretty much always headphone control, and there is a button on here that you can press. As you can see, this device packs some serious punch, but let's get into some of the advanced features and what makes this really stand out above the competition. So of course we mentioned 32-bit float recording, the massive dynamic range, great for bag drop recording sessions, great because you don't need a redundant anymore. Typically on other devices, you'd have to burn a second channel as like a safety. You don't really need to do that because there's no risk of clipping. So those are some of the advantages. And one other thing, it's not really a con, but definitely something to take into consideration. If you send a signal to a camera, that camera also has to be 32-bit enabled to receive that value. Otherwise, you're gonna be clipping your camera like crazy. So just be mindful if you're sending a signal, you're gonna want to adjust those levels. The second Unreal feature that I'm so stoked for with this unit is analog limiters. This is a feature that's pretty standard in like Hollywood level equipment, and I am so thankful that it's creeped its way down into consumer products. But basically, the main advantage with analog limiters is that you're limiting the signal before it's converted to digital. Analog limiters typically were really expensive, something you wouldn't see in this price point, and I'm really stoked that we have analog limiters in the MixPre series. And the third amazing feature of this device is the Wingman app. This is a companion app, it's Bluetooth enabled. It's available on iOS, Android, and iPad. And what's fantastic about this is you can see your levels there, you can change channel names, you can type in metadata, all these wonderful things. You can't actually control the gain of each channel, but it is nice to be able to see them. It's pretty cool. So what are the main disadvantages with this device? There are definitely a couple. Number one is there's no ability to record a safety channel. As I mentioned, with 32-bit float, you can't really clip, so there's no need for it. But if you're recording in 24-bit, it would be nice if they enabled the ability to add a safety channel. That would have been pretty nice. The second thing is there's only room for one SD card. I definitely wish there was a backup SD just in case the one becomes corrupt and maybe I lose power or something like that and it won't actually write to the USB-A in time. So it'd be nice to have 2 SD card slots, but it's not a huge deal breaker for my workflow. And the last thing, which is just kind of an ergonomics, weird build quality thing, is this whole taking the hex wrench out of the back when you need to mount your camera to the top of it. It's super inconvenient. You can't just pull the 1/4-20 thread up and put it into the camera. Instead, you have to take the Sound Devices unit off of your tripod, take off the backing plate, take off the plastic on the back of the Sound Devices unit, pull out the hex wrench, poke it through the hole on the underside of the device, which is gonna pop up the little spring-loaded 1/4-20 thread, then carefully thread your camera on, then take the whole unit and thread it back onto your backing plate, and then put it back onto the tripod. And if you have cables attached and everything rigged up, ready to go, it's really difficult to do this. So I definitely recommend, if you are using it on top of your camera, get like a quick release plate or something that you can always leave on top of your Sound Devices unit. And that way you can just take your camera off nice and easy. I don't know. Before we wrap up today's video, I just want to say a huge thank you for everyone sticking around. The channel just passed 1,000 subscribers, which is absolutely crazy. If you guys want to see more videos just like this, I'll link to my other nerdy videos right up here. That's it for this week. We'll see you guys next time.